This is Camp Mulgat at Kelowna Now with Jim Check, and we've got John Rustad, head of the BC Conservative Party, in on the occasion when another candidate, another BC United candidate, has switched his stripes to run for the Conservatives. Thanks for being with us, Mr. Rustad.
Thanks for having me on this morning.
So, what do you make of this latest turn of events?
Chris Moore is, an outstanding individual, and when we were looking for candidates in the Sunshine Coast, Powell River area, we talked to many, many people, and everybody said, "Look, Chris is the right person. He's just running for the wrong party. Why don't you have a conversation with him and have him come over and join us?" And so we're very pleased that he made that decision. He's obviously, a longtime business person. Had a little apple orchard. They turned into a cidery. It's now become a very popular tourist spot out on the Sunshine Coast. And he's also a former councillor, so I mean he brings a lot to the table, and I think it's going to make that riding a very competitive riding in this next election.
So he is an elected official from the past, but he's a little bit different than the other two that crossed over. The other two are actually elected MLAs. This one is just a candidate, but does have some experience, like you just said, as a city councillor.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got Bruce Banman and Eleanor Sturco, and as well as Lauren Dirksen, who came over and joined us as sitting MLAs. But this is, obviously a former councillor coming over as a candidate. But this is what we're trying to do as the Conservative Party. We're reaching out to anybody that would like to be part of our grassroots movement and talk about how they can be part of our team, whether that's running or that's working behind the scenes, and really to make sure that we have a good opportunity here in October to take out David Eby and his radical policies of this NDP government.
This is in Powell River, Sunshine Coast, an NDP, I don't know if I can call it a stronghold, but it's since 2005. I don't know how winnable that would be for the Conservatives.
Well, the one thing I'm hearing from the people up there is they are looking for change. They're looking for common sense and change, just like anywhere else around the province. People are excited about having this different option, having a new party coming in. Since 1991, it's been 33 years, 16 years of BC Liberal, and 17 years of NDP. And people look at it and think nothing is working well in this province. There is, crisis in just about everything you look at. People are looking for just getting back to the basics, common sense, fighting for the average everyday person.
Is Powell River still like a forest industry kind of place, or what's the main industry there now?
There's still forest industry. Obviously, many of the facilities have shut down, which is very unfortunate. There's a lot of people who are looking for what that next opportunity could be. And really, we're going to have a very solid forest platform dealing with how we try to reinvigorate our forest sector, get it under its feet again, and allow people to be able to get back to work.
Yeah, if you could expand on that, because we got news just the other day that Merritt Planers is now shutting down. That's 100 people in Merritt, small community, to lose 100 really good paying jobs. And then the quotes from the executive vice president there was that he said that it's all about log affordability, lack of government timber, and time delay costs. And he says the industry is a total disaster, and we've lost thousands of jobs, 10,000 jobs. You and I have talked about it before with Kent. How does the BC Conservatives fix that in British Columbia? You say you're going to have a strong forest platform.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be done, and the first thing you need to recognize is you can't be competitive if you're the highest cost producer. So we need to drive down those costs. We need to replace our stumpage system. We need to look differently at how we access the fiber. And I'll just give you an example. Obviously, in Merritt, there was very large fires in previous years. There's millions of cubic meters of wood that has been damaged by fires, and they can't access it. The government's not issuing permits. It's been 3 years, and only a couple of permits have been issued in these areas. And yet you go across the border in Alberta, and they will have wildfires, and within 3 weeks, they've got permits out the door. People are harvesting those trees. They're replanting. They're doing the rehabilitation work. And for whatever reason in British Columbia, this NDP government doesn't see that as being a priority and is not doing what it should be to help create those jobs, utilize that fiber, get the area rehabilitated, and get back to a healthier landscape.
You mentioned replacing our stumpage system. Are you suggesting that stumpage rates should be lowered?
What I'm saying is that the stumpage system we have in British Columbia is archaic. It needs to be thrown out the door. It is not salvageable. We need to be looking at instead a tax on the end product, and a tax that is structured in a way so that the more you actually do with the fiber, the less you will actually pay so that we're creating more jobs and we're creating incentive to actually have more value added, more products being produced from the fiber we have available.
You state that you're going to have a forest platform. When can we see that or know more in detail what that would be?
I'm hoping that we'll be able to roll out the forest platform, a component of it, this summer. There's still a little bit more work that we want to do to be able to roll that out. But there are a number of pieces of platform that we want to put out before we get closer to the election. Then, of course, there's some big pieces we'll save for the election and certainly the weeks running up to the election.
How many ridings do you have candidates in now of the total amount of ridings? What is that total number?
So it's 93 ridings around the province. Right now, I think we're around 70 or 71 candidates, and we have another 18 or so that are in the works in terms of vetting process or nomination races that are going on. And so we'll be able to fill our slate. I don't think there'll be a problem getting 93 candidates out, and we're looking forward actually to making some announcements about some of the quality candidates that we have coming up, highlighting as well, of course, the quality candidates that we already have.
Okay, now, so back to the Chris Moore situation. When asked about it, Kevin Falcon had a few words, took a bit of a shot at Chris Moore, kind of quoting Moore himself, saying that releasing factual information on extremist candidates, referring to candidates in your party, would hurt his chances of winning his own seat. So there's this word extremist. What do you say?
Well, go back a little ways back when Chris came forward as a candidate, and take a look at Kevin's high praise for Chris as a candidate for that particular riding. But I would say this: look what Kevin Falcon has done just recently, particularly with that candidate out of Surrey who wants to bring Sharia law into BC and who is supports anti-Semitism. And you ask which one has got radical candidates. We don't have radical candidates. We've got good, solid candidates from around the province that are stepping up to the plate, that just want to fight for their riding and fight for their people. And so what else is Kevin going to say? I mean, he keeps losing candidates. He's had a number of people quit. He's had some people come over on our side. He's struggling. So he's trying to find some way to be relevant. And it's unfortunate, but it just is what it is.
What was some of these social issues that some of your candidates have left their candidacy over, that they bring into the battle? I do see as being a bit of a challenge for some of those middle of the road voters. I think on climate change, for instance, I think there might be some people that you're going to need to gain in that middle area of your BC voter that might be concerned that the Conservatives are too willing to just put emissions, for instance, just to make that something to not worry about.
Well, we've got David Eby and his radical approach to climate. He believes that just give the government more money and they will solve climate for you. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. Taxing people into poverty is not going to change the weather. What we need to do is we need to have a solid plan to deal with our changing climate, which is true. Our climate is changing. We need to have a plan in terms of how we adapt. We need to double our agriculture production in this province. We're vulnerable. We only procure 34% of the food that we consume from BC. 2/3 of our food comes from outside of our border. We need to double our agriculture production. We need a much better approach in terms of how we manage water, making sure that water is available for agriculture as well as for people. So there's many things that we need to do. Our critical infrastructure needs to make sure that it is built to a standard that can resist major flood events and other types of issues that are going to come up. These are the types of things that we need to be doing as a province to address our changing climate.
So you mean we should just react to the changing climate, but not focus at all on doing our part to stop that change from happening?
British Columbia represents 0.14% of total world emissions. And out of that, just the use of, for example, fossil fuels or hydrocarbons for transportation represents about 0.03 or 0.04% of world emissions. It's not even a rounding error. There is nothing we can do as a province to be able to address this. And when you look at countries like China and India and other places and their emissions, why would we put people into poverty, destroy our quality of life, make us uncompetitive with our industries, and with absolutely no chance to be able to do anything? So we're much stronger and much better off to make sure we focus on the quality of life of people, making life more affordable, for people, and learning as a province as to how we can adapt to that changing climate and make sure that we're looking after the people in British Columbia.
BC leads in EV adoption, and then there was an announcement that came out, I think yesterday, the car dealers are talking about it, is that they've dropped the credit, the PST credit for, not PST credit, but the BC credit, down to 50,000 from 55,000. I'm not sure what the logic was of that. I think the car dealers are trying to react to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the logic is either in terms of it, but I look, we do not have the electricity that you need to be able to provide for things like heat pumps and electric vehicles in BC. We are already net importers. 84% of the energy we consume today is hydrocarbons. And even with Site C coming on, that'll only increase the amount of electricity to 18%. We don't have the ability to do this. And yet by 2035, you're not going to be able to buy an internal combustion engine anymore. That doesn't make any sense. If we don't have the ability to have the power for people, how is it that you're telling them that all they can do is have an electric vehicle? We need to be much more logical in approach and deal with how we're going to expand out electrical generation, for example, in this province. Just take heat pumps, for example. In the Okanagan, there was the issue of Fortis that was looking to expand its natural gas pipeline to be able to make sure that it could meet the demand within the area. And the BC utilities said, no, you're not allowed to do that because people need to move over to heat pumps. Well, if every residential building and every commercial building in the province had to use heat pumps, we would need the equivalent of 6 or 7 more Site C dams. We're not going to be building another dam in BC. So where's that power going to come from? And we can't be just reliant on importing power from outside of our borders. We need to have a solid plan in terms of how we're actually going to meet that demand and that need for electricity. And we don't have that today. And it will take decades to be able to do that.
So would you consider this Chris Moore addition to your team, call it gaining steam?
Certainly, we continue to gain momentum across the province with what we're doing. There's, people are joining right around the province. Our membership continues to grow as a party. We're going to continue to reach out to other people, making sure that we put the best candidates we can forward. People that want to, like say, fight for just that average everyday person, to make sure that come October we have a good chance to be able to defeat David Eby and these radical approaches he's doing.
We're getting close to that election time, and obviously we need to see your full platform. And are you going to kind of roll that out in pieces, or is that going to come out in one big platform, or how is that going to come out?
Well, we've already been talking about many of the things that we're going to be doing. We will have officially sort of rolling pieces out as we go, but there'll be a bulk of what we're going to do that'll be released as a platform, either just before or just as we get into the election.
Because I guess the question I have of what's on British Columbians' mind, and what's the the political platforms that are out there from yourself, from the BC United and from the NDP, like somehow I think sometimes they don't mesh with what's actually the real concerns for people.
It's very clear that the top 3 issues in BC are affordability, housing, and healthcare. After that, it's the economy, it is drugs, it is health, like mental health issues, and then it gets into other issues such as what's going on in education and environment, these types of things. But it's very clear those top 3 issues have remained those top 3 issues for many, many months. And so we will have some very strong pieces that we'll be rolling out associated with those issues so that people can have a real choice in this province.
Well, we look forward to hearing all those.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else today.
No, I'm good. I just want to thank you so much for giving us.
I think we should talk about the Oilers, though, before we let you go. Just to reinforce that Game 7 Draisaitl scores.
No.
He's a Canucks fan.
Look, I've switched to the Oilers now. All right.
Oh, you're on the Oilers stand?
Well, I want to stand up in Canada, okay? I don't care if it was the Leafs or the Oilers, and so it's the Oilers. And so I'm not going to – I think Zach Hyman's going to get the winner.
Well, I don't know which way it'll go in terms of that, but what I want to see is I want to see a very good Game 6. I want to see the Oilers be able to take that to the Game 7 and build up that excitement for that game. And it would be great to have the cup back in Canada for sure.
It's been a long drought.
Yeah.
And I
Thanks.
can tell you, I'm a Canucks fan too. But the Oilers are the team now that knocked out the Canucks. So I've got to switch over and
There you
double
go.
support them. And away we go.
There you go. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, John.
All right, take care.